What's up, guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving a 1982 Chevy Monte Carlo. Up front is a 7.4 liter V8, and down below is a 3-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this here Monte Carlo for a couple of reasons. First of all, I love older GMs. I reviewed a 98 Monte Carlo recently, and so this is the generation that came before it, but also the fact that this is a big block swap and it's kind of terrifying. So I'm excited to get into that today. But before we get on to anything else, I have a website, zackpradel.com, where you can buy stickers and other merchandise when it becomes available. You could also submit your own vehicle to be reviewed by me through a quick and easy submission form, and you get a video of your car just like this one. And you could read my behind the scenes blog to see what I'm filming before it comes out on the channel. But let's talk about this car. Now, this car has been heavily modified. It looks a lot like the Monte Carlo SS, and you'll see the SS badge on the inside and things like that. However, this is actually an SS clone. Originally, when this car came off the factory floor, it had actually a V6 in it, and so it has been heavily modified over the years. And if you're a fan of these cars and you've seen a white 82 Monte Carlo in the Gateway Classic Cars video, that's this car. This car was sold down in Texas, brought up here to Illinois. And so if you're wondering whatever happened to that car, this is it. Now, this car has a very extensive build list, and I'll try to do my best to share what I remember and what I can recall while my face is currently being melted off. But you can read the full thing down in the description below. But let's get back to that big block up front, the 454. Well, this one as it sits has forged internals. It's been bored over a little bit and is said to be making about 550 horsepower, which is nothing to thumb your nose at. This generation of Monte Carlo never actually came with the 454. And the 454 is kind of a famous engine. It's the Chevy big block. When you say the Chevy big block, a lot of times they mean the 454. And so that's what we're dealing with here today. Woo! I'm easing myself into it. This is something that you don't just hop in and immediately feel comfortable with. You gotta kind of tame the beast a little bit. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just kind of easing into it a little bit, just kind of feeling it out. Like I said, paired to it is a turbo 400 transmission, which is a 3-speed automatic, and it is aggressive. It'll kick you in the shorts when it's shifting gears. However, cruising around in drive, I'm just in regular drive right now, it gets up into third gear around 30 miles an hour, and then you just sit in third. Last but not least, of course, the Monte Carlo is rear wheel drive. First gear. Woo! Oh boy. Oh boy. That was about 5,500, which the owner says he's got it to 6,500. I'm good there. I am. That's a healthy amount for me. Thank you very much. Wow. That's out of the way. Let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a bunch of really small gauges. On the left, I get my speedometer and what gear I'm in, as well as my odometer. In the center, I get my fuel gauge, voltage, engine temperature, and oil pressure. And then off to the right, I get my tachometer and my quartz clock. Because this is an 80s car, you gotta have a quartz. Now, the steering wheel has since been changed out, of course. However, it's a really small wheel, which I'm not used to in older GM American cars like this. Normally they have big boaty steering wheels. Well, this one with a small one actually feels really nice, and I'm pleasantly enjoying it. Off to the left, I do have my headlight switches, a vent, and then these are added gauges, of course. These are not factory. And then moving out of the door, I do have power windows. A big grab handle reminds me a lot of the Cadillacs from the same era, like the Fleetwoods I've done from the early 90s. Then I have my mirror adjustments, lock and unlock, and latch to get in and out at the bottom. Moving into the center, I actually don't get anything immediately. I do get this nice gray pad up at the front, and it does say Monte Carlo SS, like I said at the top of the video. This isn't truly an SS. But then I do have my climate control options, which I'm very used to seeing the off, max, normal, bi-level vent and heater, but I've never seen them be multicolored, which is very, very interesting. I like that added little flair of the little squares underneath each setting being a different color. I actually really like that. That's a nice little touch. Then I do have an aftermarket radio, which does work, but who cares? Then I have some added gauges for my oil pressure and water temperature, just to keep an eye on what the car is doing. Then I have the shifter itself. So this is a genuine Hurst shifter. And so this little peg down here is actually the reverse lockout. And then you use the sort of pistol grip to get it in and out of certain gears, which I think is kind of cool and definitely something of a bygone era. You don't really see these put in modern muscle cars anymore, but definitely cool to see in this one. On top of the shifter, I do get a red button. Unfortunately, this is not for missiles. It's actually for line locks. So this will lock the front brakes, but not the rear brakes, so you can do a fat burnout. Then we do have a center console, meaning there are no cup holders here in the Monte Carlo. So unfortunately, the 82 Monte Carlo fails the big friggin' bottle test. The seats are very, very comfortable. They have Chevy embroidered in them. However, they are custom seats for this particular car. Speaking of seats, however, we do have back seats. So let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 1982 Chevy Monte Carlo, and I am pleasantly enjoying it back here. Chevy really knew what they were doing, and GM as a whole. I've done the Grand National, and I've also done a Pontiac Grand Prix 2+2. They really, really nailed it when it came to back seats of coupes. I could still sit back here very comfortably. The material in here is very, very plush. It's very comfortable. And so that is really, really nice. I don't get really any crazy amenities back here. The burgundy interior carries on back here, which I love. But other than that, nothing too crazy. Let's go hop around the very back. We do have a fun little surprise in the trunk, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so we're on the back of the Monte Carlo. I do have two separate keys, one for the ignition, one for the body. So pop it up like that. And this is the fun surprise that I was mentioning. So very, very good sized trunk. Let's first talk about that. Very, very good sized trunk. This is an American car from the 80s, what I expected. But we get this nice leather with the Chevy logo. This is not factory. What this is hiding is a 16-gallon fuel cell. Super, super cool. The 2x4 is just there to prop it up, but I'm just using my hand today. Really, really cool. I like the fact that it's nice and hidden, so when you do pop the trunk, you take the 2x4 out of there. It's this very nice presentational trunk while still being functional with a fuel cell. Love that. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and first of all, first thing you notice is that the hood is missing. That's because when this car was originally sold, it actually had a transmission lowering kit that would actually drop the rear of the engine and transmission down to fit under a 2-inch cowl hood. Well, the issue with that is Illinois roads are not very nice, and so the owners raised it up and are currently waiting to get a 4-inch cowl hood, but it's on a 12-week back order, so that is not unfortunately happening anytime soon. But the other thing I wanted to note about the exterior is the fact that this is actually finished in Toyota Supra White. That's right, one of the previous owners, I don't know who, painted this with a Toyota Supra White paint code. So, although this is a very American muscly car, it's actually finished in a Japanese white, which I think is kind of interesting. But now let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think finally driving a Monte Carlo from the early 80s, a first-year G-body? Now what's interesting is that this car was so easily modifiable back in the day that probably most Monte Carlos that you see or that are still around are in this format. Big engine up front, drag slicks, all of that stuff. It's actually probably more rare to drive one with the original V6 But something that I love about the G-bodies is just how adaptable they were. You could shove pretty much any engine that Chevy was making at the time into this chassis and it handles it. It's old-fashioned in the sense that it's rear-wheel drive, it's very modular, it's easy to work on, and at this point, we kind of know the winning formula for this car, which is this. 454 big block, turbo 400, big fat tires, and call it a day. That's the winning combo, which can be looked at from both ways, but honestly, to me, that's nice. You know exactly what you need to make it how you want. There's no guesswork. And as terrifying as this car is, driving it at normal speeds actually isn't terrible because it has all the torque this side of the Mississippi. I can actually drive it like a normal human being, and I'm not twisting frame. I'm not scaring the neighbors. Yeah, you get that insane V8 chop, sure, but it's actually manageable. It's not an unchained beast at low speeds, but when you want to cut it loose, you can definitely cut it loose. And that's when brain cells start flying out the window faster than the trees going by. Oh God, this is beautiful. And the thing I love most about it is that it is all motor. This is an all motor car. There's no nitrous, although it's set up for it. There's no turbo, there's no supercharger. It's just this big, fat, lazy brute. But when you poke it enough, it springs into action. It's not phased. It's just this brute that just keeps on going. And it makes you doubt yourself without saying any words. This car hasn't stepped out on me. This car has been very easy and manageable to drive, and yet it instills disbelief in myself. It's like in marketing, when you offer someone a deal, whoever speaks first loses. Well, in this case, I spoke first. The car held still. It looked me dead in the eyes, and I chickened out. The weakest link in this automobile is me. And you know what? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with being the weakest link. I can still leave this review with my masculinity intact, knowing that I gave it my all. But my all just wasn't good enough for the Monte Carlo. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Paul and Nick for letting me take out the Monte Carlo. This thing is insane. And I'm very, very glad to have a beast like this under my belt. Very, very cool. But I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.